Hey, it's me. I'm back. I wanted to show you something cool before we talk about proximity and unity. Um, so, like many of you, I'm extremely bored, and that leads to searching on the internet. And searching on the internet for me leads to buying stupid things. And one kind of weird purchase that I decided um, I just had to have was this little instrument. It is a slide whistle. Check this out. Why did I have to have this? I don't know. It made sense at the time. My wife is very pleased. All right. Let's talk about proximity. Proximity, how close things are together. In a visual text, it refers to how close elements or groupings of elements are placed uh, next to each other. I think I have a typo. And what relationships are built as a result of that happening. Proximity tells the reader what belongs together and what doesn't. It helps the eye make sense of the page. Um, Here are some proximity related questions. Do the elements on a page seem crowded? Is there too much space between elements? And I'll tell you what, I do not like white space on a page. Like if there was this other website that I was looking at earlier, and it really ticked me off. How one of the things I usually do with students is look at high school websites, but there's this one that really ticks me off in terms of proximity because it's just crappily organized, I think, and it's got way too much white space. To me, white space kind of falls under proximity. If you scroll down here, this is Bangor High School for me. Anyway, you scroll down here and then look at all this. Like, there's all this space here. I mean, you got stuff along the side, but nothing in here. What's that about? I don't know. To me, that's poor organization, or you might say that it's poor proximity. Is Are my groupings confusing or clear? Am I making good use of the space on the page? Let's take a look at this website that talks about proximity. If it pulls up, maybe. And while we're waiting, I should probably do this. If you practice, it's basically like a trombone. Like it's got a slide thing on it. So if you practice enough, you can really play pretty much any song. You just have to know where to put your hand. Okay. But I was trying to do Happy Birthday earlier and really struggling. On the box, it says you can learn any tune in 5 minutes, and it took me longer than 5 minutes. What am I talking about here? Effective principles for web designers. Proximity. All right. Well, spacing and relationships. Proximity for web design purposes means that similar related elements should be grouped together, while those that are unrelated or dissimilar should be separated, right? So this thing is off in the corner because it is not related to those things. All right, there's some cool things here proximity wise. Like, look at how these paragraphs are separated. To me, that seems kind of screwy, although it separates them on the page. But this is worse. I mean, what if you just crammed all the text together like that? Like, that would be horrible to have to try and read, right? So that's something that's proximity related. Basically, you want things to be spaced apart in a way that makes sense, not too far apart, um, but it's easy for the eye to make sense of. Let's take a look at this proximity little thing. Now, this to me looks fairly organized. This is a course list for a college, right? Things are organized in a way that makes sense, but what if you did this? Ooh, same course list, but now things are spaced out a little differently, and you've got these huge header things here, and then here are all the classes underneath the foundational courses. Here are all the classes under the core courses, and now things are spaced out in a way that I think is even easier to understand. I mean, this didn't look terrible, but when you look at this, well, geez, that's way easier to look at and understand. So better proximity. And, there was another website that we were looking at earlier that talked about proximity in terms of it being related to contrast. I'm going to click back on this page. What it really irritates me is that there's a lot of white space on a page, or things are just so cluttered, I don't know where to look, So I like things to be spaced out. But you could think of proximity as in a type of contrasting, the space factor here. Space can play an important role in organizing design elements. By surrounding important elements with some extra blank space, you will draw more attention to that element and make it stand out. So proximity can allow you to create some contrast, I guess. That's one way to think about it. By the way, I have included all these links on here so that you can look at them yourselves if you want to know more information. Let's talk about the last element here. It's unity. Now, unity is kind of the overall element. It's basically how everything hangs together. Let's read the description. Unity refers to the coherent style and organization of a text. Strong unity helps bond disparate elements of a text together as one seamless, natural, stylish, professional object. Without unity, it may be difficult for the audience to make sense of the text. You might also think of unity as consistency. So basically, when you're talking about unity, it's kind of like, well, how does the whole format work here? Generally, you want consistent font styles and sizes and colors. You want a kind of a basic organizational scheme that is used on each page of the site. You want some repetition there and some consistency in terms of how things are aligned. But if every page is different, then the whole site as a whole doesn't really hang together. It doesn't make sense because you have to, generally you look at one page, you expect kind of the same basic format to be there on the next page. And if it doesn't, then it looks like these are pages from different websites. Here's a little link that I found that talks more about Unity. Factors of Unity. Well, here's your basics here. Color is one of the biggest factors. Generally, you think about the different companies and the colors that they use in their logo, and that tends to be the colors that they use in their site, and that you tend to use those same colors for every page. Repetition, like repeating the same kind of design scheme, things like that, or the header is always at the top and they always have these tabs. We've talked about alignment. We've talked about proximity. Things look together when they are closer. It's just natural. It's pretty simple because when you put stuff together, they look together. However, should they not be together, other factors like color can be utilized to continue a sense of unity. All right, that's interesting. So here's the Coke homepage, and of course, in terms of unity, you've got the same red color going on, right? And basically the same font style, and you don't have a lot of variation. It's red, black, and white, pretty much. I mean, you have that's blue, and there's some other colors in there, but it's basically red, black, and white. And this was the way the Coke page looks. And as you went through everything on that page, you're going to have this red header, and elements are in red, black, and white. So there's unity in terms of color. Unity refers to repetition and consistency, reoccurring elements that look identical from a connection, since your brain will think, hey, I've seen that before. It creates familiarity within the page so that your users aren't obliged to reprocess that particular part of your website over and over again. We've discussed alignment. Here it's talking about alignment in terms of columns. And that's maybe one thing I didn't talk about in the alignment video, columns or rows. But these green boxes, they're not actually on the Squarespace website, but they're just using them to highlight how the information is all placed into columns. So that's another type of Organizational scheme, you could also say it's a type of alignment scheme. Proximity, again, here you have these central elements, and there's these things off here. What are they doing there? Well, maybe they're not as important. I don't know. But proximity can create that impression. I don't know if there's anything else to highlight here, but another website that you can look at as you think of Unity. Let's just click on some rando website. Well, let's take a look at one of the websites that we've already discussed. Let's go to U of I and talk about Unity in terms of U of I. Obviously, their colors are orange and blue, so you're going to see that all over the place. In terms of font styles, you've got this kind of text, and then you've got this kind of text. Those are a little different in terms of text style. There's Unity in terms of the alignment. It's all pretty much left alignment. Unity in terms of organizational scheme. You could say that past this scrolling header, I think it's a scrolling header, that it's in columns in terms of the way it goes down here. Then we've got our buttons here again, more blue. That makes sense. Here, I guess things are kind of columned out in a way. More buttons. And you could say these are columns. So that's something I totally forgot about when I was talking about organization. And I guess even to some extent, alignment is look for columns. Is your information placed in columns? These are columns, but it's left alignment in each column. So does it hang together? Well, I think to see if something hangs together and has unity, you need to click on a variety of pages to see what happens here. So let's go to overview. All right, so that looks like this same header is on every single page. You still got the dark blue font generally. A lot of text on this page. But does it look like it belongs with the home page? Yeah, let's do one more. Let's do research part, or just randomly. And there we go. So more orange and blue. Looks a little different than the other pages, but and it's organized. Certainly organized differently. I mean, these type of headers aren't on the other page, so there's some variation here. You might be able to argue, hey, they could use better Unity. It's tough to get a website this large for every single page to use the same style. So anyway, folks, that's a little bit about proximity and Unity. One other thing I have on here that could be useful is I included some websites to just talk about kind of your basic terms as you're discussing the parts of a website. I thought this was a helpful site. This was the 13 parts of a website. Maybe you're very tech savvy and you know all this stuff, but perhaps these links will be helpful to you. Maybe we'll just look at this link here since this video is getting long. 13 parts of a website you should know from DigiWorks. I imagine they are probably like a marketing firm that creates websites for people. But so here's this sample page, and then they've got everything numbered out. What are these different parts? Well, number 1 is your logo. 2 is your header. You always see the header. 3 is that contact us, I assume? No, it's the menu. Menus, often placed in an easy-to-reach place on a website, provide a way to navigate the website in an easy way. I feel like that was a little redundant. All right, the body is kind of past your header. What's going on here? That's your body. You've got highlighted content. Their highlighted content is number 5. Oh, it's kind of what's the thing that's in the header here. There's usually some kind of box that, I don't know, tries to get you engaged. That's called the call to action. It's a call to action button. So if you see on a website something that says donate or sign up for our information or something, that's a call to action button. It says CTA. CTAs are important for guiding visitors to your website, to important information, completing website goals, and navigating your website. They can be obvious, such as buttons, or more subtle, like linking within text. But they all guide visitors to information that is relevant and basically to get their information. Basically, all right. Sidebar. What's a sidebar? That's a sidebar. It's on the side. It's a bar. Internal links, forms, buttons, footers. All right, so I think these are kind of your internal links. A lot of websites will have a form where to either contact you or get more information. Here's your social media links. What's at the bottom of a web page is called the footer. And this is kind of where they display their address or phone number or contact us information, or just kind of all the stuff that's not that important. So they put it at the bottom. So those are some different things that you might find on a website. And there's a couple other things, links here that talk about parts of a website. So as you're writing about the website that you analyze, those terms might be helpful. All right, that's all for now.